Ndị be anyị kelekwanụ m unu. Anyị sị ka nkonye chiri ya zelu. Anyị sị ka ọ mara na Igbo na mma. Anyị adị ka Chineke ada agwụ agwụ. Otu anyị kwuru ya, otu akwa ya dịrị. Ise, ise, ise. Anyị dịka o si dị ụbọchị uhuruchi nketa anyị wetara nnukwu ozi. Biko geenụ ntị. Ife a bụ according to the Biafran activist wetara ya bụ ozi. Quote, one of the international analysis unveils a hidden truth. Geenụ ntị ndị Igbo. Geenụ ntị ọfụma. Igbos, the truth is finally out. If I one of the word analysis with the according to one of the Biafran activists, the truth behind the Nigerian backwardness and hatred towards Igbos in Nigeria. All right, so before Kajimakia we beni wako, tontina no fuma. If I nuku update, it will shock you people. Only for Igbos. Because if you see a drop or if you do it again. All right, over to you.
The West would never allow Nigeria to develop to a position where its wealth and power would threaten West European interests in Africa. Mr. Chairman, I don't need any comment. Thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, the Secretary to the conference, distinguished delegates, I will be very brief. There will be no padding. I wish to thank the President for this opportunity for re-engineering the country. I wish to go straight to say that the problem we have in this country is because we are suffering from mental slavery. Over 300 years ago, our parents sold our brothers and sisters into slavery. 300 years later, we are not different. We are still selling ourselves into slavery. There is no originality in this country. This is the root of the problem we have. Those days, the price for the slaves were trinkets, beads, gunpowder, gin, thank you very much, and so on. The price today is foreign aid. The price today is political influence. The problem we have is not of our own making. And unless we address those issues, our collusion with the colonial masters is going to cause us more problems. If we look all around, look at the ceiling, there is nothing that is new, nothing indigenous in this hall. The country itself is not indigenous. Even the coup, we are blaming the military. Even the coups that we have is not of our own making. I believe there is the author of one of the books I have read in this conference who stated that the idea of it was first suggested in one of the military conferences they attended in America. I will go straight to read, with your permission, Mr. Chairman, what the respected Alhaji Shehu Shagari has put in his book. And I ask every member here to get that book, because I know most members here have the book written by Clinton, but they have not put the book, they have not bought the book written by Haji Shehu Shagari. And I'm going to quote what he has written. Quote, I was particularly struck by a conversation I had with a Greek professor attached to an international agency in Geneva. He told me his opinion of why West Europeans were supporting the rebellion against Nigeria. It was, he said, common among Westerners to sympathize with the underdog in any dispute, which in this case happens to be the Eastern Igbo. But what was even more important to the West was that Nigeria was a potential rival power in Africa. a force which had to be checked before it becomes a threat to Western European interests on the continent. The Biafran challenge, accordingly, provided a suitable opportunity to trim Nigeria's growing wings. He said that according to certain estimates, Nigeria was sitting on a keg of oil, which, given a suitable condition, would make it so rich in just 10 years, that is by 1978, that Nigeria would not require any aid from Europe. Indeed, Nigeria would be in a position to assist other African countries, especially the poorer ones, and thus undermine an important basis on which European influence was exercised over them. I underline that. He did not therefore think that Europe would stand idly by and watch Nigeria become to Africa what the United Nations had become to Western Europe. The rebel enclave, on the other hand, could be encouraged to become a rich but small and manageable African country, which would still be dependent on the West, just as some small oil-rich Arab countries have been. Finally, he assured me that whatever happened in the future, the West would never allow Nigeria to develop to a position where its wealth and power threaten West European interests in Africa. Mr. Chairman, I don't need any comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
But I want to observe that what General Babangida said is important because he was a key participant in the process. He was in the army in 1966, experienced the first coup, was part of the second coup, was part of the Civil War, and he recorded his experiences and listed dates and so on. So people have to look at those basic facts before expressing an opinion. But I want to also point out that what Babangida had said in his book is the subject of a whole book called Nzogu, written by General Obasanjo, President Obasanjo, in which he had explained what has happened. That, for instance, you see Babangida, his book, expression of Nzogu as a regular northern guy. And that when Nzogu died, he was given a military honor burial. That is very, 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 very important. Very, 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 very important. That could have told all this argument all along. If people take note that when Nzogu died, in the northern front, Nsukka front, populated at that time by the 1st Division of the Nigerian Army, made up of core northerners, and they took his corpse and gave him an honorable military burial. They didn't bury him as an enemy. It is very, very, very important. People ignore that fact all along. But if they took note of that fact, that was given military honor burial by those who would otherwise be seen as his enemy at that time, all this argument will not have risen. But in any case, I want us to know that the idea of the January 1966 coup being an Igbo coup was articulated by Britain and broadcast first by BBC. It is very important to take note of it. It is further important to take note that Britain had planned a war to take place by or before 1958 against the eastern region of Nigeria. And that the governor in the east at that time, Robert Bowden, pressed to stop that. What they did, note, by 1966, from 58, that's 8 years, very few years. What they did was they took the event of January 1966 as pretext to activate a war they had planned against the Igbo and against Eastern Nigeria. In fact, when I say against Eastern Nigeria, that against the Igbo and the Bibio, who from the slave era, they had marked out as unmanageably rebellious. Why would they plan that war? They planned the war because by 1929, the women in the East had uprisen and disrupted their whole program of indirect rule using artificial foreign chiefs. From 29 to 49, when the Eva Valley massacre over Kola at Enugu, which Britain was cutting away to use to rehabilitate Britain after the World War II, was my 20 years. Again, it was the Igbo that had arisen at Enugu and they massacred the coal miners and it led to all kinds of confusion. And then they plotted to end it. But we still need to go further behind and find the role of Igbo slaves in the American Civil War, in which Britain and France supported the losing party of Confederates. After which they set up the Hausa Constabulary, which became the Nigerian Security Services as we know them, and specifically excluded the recruitment of Southerners in order to avoid recruiting rebellious people. Even before then, we have to go back to Haiti, the Haitian Revolution, which is the greatest revolution in all of human history, in which a slave population defeated all the world powers at that time, Spain, British Empire, Napoleonic France, and proclaimed their independence. And this phenomenon was led by the Igbo. The slaves had analyzed all the 27 ethnic nations. Those from Nigeria, the Nago were there. Yoruba is a new name. The Yoruba, the Nago, that were there. The Fula were there. The Hausa were there. But identified the Igbo as the model to follow and win freedom, and they did. And Napoleon marked out that the Haitians had to be wiped from the earth to stop the black race from marching on the earth.
Mm-hmm.
But the Igbo led the black race to defeat Napoleon and abort that ambition of the European imperialists and slavers. So we need to go back and understand this thing and come forward to Nigeria. Why did Lugard, after analyzing Nigerian ethnic groups, particularly the Hausa, Fulani, the Igbo, Yoruba, point out that these other people were neither here nor there, but that Igbo should be watched because they wouldn't be in support of their plunder of the black race. Okay. So this is, I want us to keep this in perspective before we make it a Nigerian debate, an Igbo debate, Yoruba debate, Hausa debate. No. The war was planned by the British. The idea of Igbo coup was articulated by the British, and every other thing is.
Ndị ba ngwadalu dị nne kunu si wene swere n'ilu akwụkwọ na Eastern 24 beba isi wene wetara nya bụ ozi dịka isi kwuo n'nkwa n'ilu akwụkwọ ka efi were ikwu gbasịta maka ya bụ ife ndị a niile nọ n'ilu akwụkwọ n'oge ugbu a ka efi were ikwu n'ụdị nke gị dọpụra ifiche maka ya bụ ife na comment section bido beba isi wene wetara nya bụ ozi ya na Eastern 24 nwoke mesịa na ụmụnne m